because The View is live. Change of heart. Comedian Kevin Hart steps down as host of the Oscars after anti-gay tweets come back to haunt him. How does outgoing Congresswoman Mia Love feel about President Trump saying he could have saved her from losing in the midterms?
Mia Love gave me no love, and she lost.
She's talking back live on The View. And Christmas is coming early when American Idol alums Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard reunite on our stage. Plus, we're finding out if the co-hosts have any shocking hidden secrets from their past.
Funny you should ask.
Let's get this party started with Whoopi, Abby Huntsman, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Meghan McCain, and Anna Navarro. Now, let's get things started.
Welcome to The View. The Oscars are looking for a new host this morning because just 2 days after they asked Kevin Hart to do it, he stepped down after anti-gay tweets from his past emerged. Here's what he said about it yesterday. Watch.
So I just got a call from the Academy, and that call basically said, Kevin, apologize for your tweets of old, or we're going to have to move on and find another host. Talking about the tweets from 2009, 2010. I chose to pass. I passed on the apology. The reason why I passed is because I've addressed this several times. Regardless, Academy, I'm thankful and appreciative of the opportunity. If it goes away, no harm, no foul.
Eventually, he did apologize, and he said he's bowing out, so he's not a distraction on a night that's supposed to celebrate artists. He said he's sorry for this before. He has. He's apologized before. Yeah. So how many times does he need to apologize, do you think? Or is he cooked? What's the story here?
Well, sometimes you got to eat some crow before you get your dream job, right? He said this is like a dream come true for him to do. So my biggest issue, besides the tweets, which we will not read on the show, but if you'd like to go see just how terrible and vulgar and homophobic they are, go right ahead, but I would warn you. My biggest issue was his non-apology apology. I mean, why not use this as a platform to go out there and speak to one of the biggest audiences you have in the year on television?
Right, so you think he should have gone ahead?
Oh, absolutely.
Like
use
Chris
it.
Rock used it one time, yeah.
That's my opinion.
Look, you know, the Oscars and a lot of award shows, particularly lately since Trump has been president, have been a platform for Hollywood to criticize this president for discrimination, for racism, for homophobia. So I do think that they are, and they should be held up to a higher standard if they are going to have that standing of then, you know, pointing a finger at others. At the same time, I think you got to let people and give people a chance to evolve. In 2009, gay marriage was not legal. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, nobody was pro-gay marriage except I think you and me. You know, on the Republican Party.
That's different from homophobic remarks.
Right, but listen. There has been such a perception change, a social change, the largest in our lifetime regarding gay rights, gay marriage, equality, LGBTQ in the last 10 years that we have seen. I think a lot of people have evolved, and we got to give them the chance to do that.
And he has apologized for it before. The problem that I have with it is sort of, and I think, Meghan, you agree, this kind of mob mentality that we're seeing, these forced apologies. You know, everybody's sort of jumping on the bandwagon, not allowing people to evolve, not allowing people to own up to things. I think what was so weird to me was he has apologized for this before.
Yeah.
And for the Academy to then force him to apologize again, I don't understand that. And there has been this mob now that's saying, you know, he's a horrible person, and the tweets were despicable. But when is an apology enough?
Go ahead.
No, I obviously agree that the tweets are abhorrent. I'm an LGBT advocate, as were you early on, Anna.
We all are.
This whole thing was.
Yeah, but but in the Republican Party, that was very rare when Meghan and I signed an amicus brief, you know, in support of gay marriage. Only 100 Republicans did so. We were among them.
Yes. So we get that out of the way that we all support and love the LGBT community.
Yeah.
I will say Kevin Hart's a huge star. I mean, he was in Night School, Jumanji, Ride Along. He's a big movie star right now. So I'd never heard of these tweets before. I actually didn't know of the homophobic tweets that he had sent out before, but I also am against mob mentality stuff, and I also am not sure where the goalpost is. Joy Reid, who hosts a show on MSNBC, had blog posts from the same time, 2007 to 2009, saying homophobic stuff about Governor Charlie Crist, my father, Lindsey Graham. She still has a show on MSNBC. Tracy Morgan went on a homophobic rant in 2011. He kept his job on 30 Rock. James Gunn removed from a director of Guardians of the Galaxy after old tweets.
So maybe it's the Oscars. It's on ABC TV.
Maybe it's the Oscars.
It's our network, which is a squeaky clean network.
But you can't be someone
that
watches. You can't be someone that, to your point, that watches Joy Reid and is one of her big fans, and also be part of this mob mentality and be out there tweeting against Kevin Hart.
And those people, they've all apologized, right? Have they all apologized?
I don't know.
I remember Joy Reid coming out and saying,
that's a really complicated issue. She also said someone hacked into her blog, and then they had a dialogue into it, which they said
she did
not find.
But ultimately, I believe, and I could be wrong. Control room, please let me know if I am. She apologized and said, I have an evolved.
She has a history of being pro-gay, though.
No, I think there's a silver lining to all of this, and it's that we are talking about it, and we need to continue talking about it. Because the hate crimes have jumped up so much. The bullying against LGBTQ, the suicides by LGBTQ kids is so high that it's something we need to keep being more sensitive about.
These people need to stop making homophobic remarks, including Kevin Hart. But if they want somebody who's... Thank you. We all agree on that.
Yeah.
You know, but if you want somebody squeaky clean, you're going to have to get a mime at the Oscars, because everybody has something, especially comedians.
What happens now? Like, I'm sorry, you're going to a commercial break.
No, go ahead.
Who is...
they're in a bind.
Everybody has a past on social media.
Well, there's that historian that they're getting for the White House correspondent.
And Hugh Jackman.
Oh, yes, that's a good point. We're going to have historians doing everything.
But this is, again, we said this the other day. This is another cautionary tale to mothers. Watch your kids, what they do online, what they do on social media. When they're running for the Supreme Court, they're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're talking about the Catholic Church that put baby Jesus in a cage in their nativity scene this year. We'll be right back.
He's New York's former mayor, a billionaire, and maybe running for president in 2020? Well, hold on, because Monday, Michael Bloomberg faces the women of The View. Plus, look who else is hitting the table. Aaron Sorkin, Ken Jeong, Leah Remini, Armie Hammer, Felicity Jones, Leslie Mann, and oh wait, did I mention Jennifer Lopez? Yes! Jennifer will be here Wednesday. And it wouldn't be Happy Holidays at The View without Darlene Love. Plus special guest Bryan Adams. Next week on The View on ABC. Later, outgoing Republican Congresswoman Mia Love on her war of words with the president. Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard reunite on our stage. And we're unlocking the hidden past of our co-hosts.
Welcome back. So, a Catholic church in Massachusetts is causing a lot of controversy for their nativity scene this year. The pastor said he wanted to depict what's happening at America's border right now. So he put the three wise men behind a wall and the baby Jesus in a cage, like the recent photos we've seen of migrant children at the border. So is a nativity scene the place for a political statement, or is it effective? What would you say, my dears?
I'm not a fan of safe spaces to begin with, but can we have one for Jesus? Like, I'm sorry, I've been very outspoken on children and families being separated at the border. This, to me, feels very wrong. And I think there should be a place where you can see a nativity scene and go to your church, and there's a place where we can talk politics, like right here at this table, and really anywhere else you want to go, and have those real debates, and people can voice their opinions. That's what this country's all about. But Jesus didn't do anything wrong. He's not a part of this.
He was a refugee, just like Mary and Joseph. And is there any better way to protest that than for the Catholic Church, which really is rising to the occasion in many ways, because all they can do is vote, also, like the rest of us.
Well, I was very conflicted about it when I saw this, you know, nobody wants to see the baby Jesus in a cage. But I will tell you this, I think the Catholic Church oftentimes doesn't do enough when it comes to current issues. And I know when I go to my church, you know, sometimes the homily is just so bland, and he never ties in current events with the homily. And I'll never forget, I went to church right after the Sandy Hook shooting. The priest never mentioned it. And I stopped going to that particular church because I want guidance in terms of faith and what it's going on in our world today, because it's so divisive, and I want the guidance from the church. And so when I look at this, you know, it shook me up incredibly. But maybe this is the right thing to do. Maybe people need to be shaken up, because look at what is happening to children and families at the border.
I know.
It is despicable. There are still children separated, over 5,000, from their families. Still.
But
And
don't
really
we have
outrageous here.
Don't we have separation of church and state for a reason, though?
This is my.
Then
it's again. It's each. We cherry pick what we want when we want it. Do you want separation of church and state? Do you want separation of religion and politics, or do you want it all to be one thing? Me personally, I like the separation of church and state. You can go to any church, worship,
argument.
whatever.
That's a good argument.
You can go to any church, worship in whichever way you want. I also think the Catholic Church has a lot of scandals on its own that it hasn't taken care of about pedophilia and things that they need to look at in their own house before maybe lecturing me and my country on how we're doing things. Take a look inside your own house. No disrespect to Catholics. I know you're a practicing Catholic as well. I am Baptist, and I wouldn't like it if I was going into church and there's any kind of political statement whatsoever.
How do you feel about the evangelicals speaking out constantly about religion and mixing Trump,
I don't like
Trump and
it's a hard
together?
line for me. I don't like it's a hard line. Much like I'm a free speech advocate, there are hard lines in my life. The separation of church and state.
And anyway, I would say also to that argument, two wrongs don't make a right. Just because they do have a bad pedophilia scandal, which I'm assuming that they're dealing with. This is a separate issue, and they're allowed to do this.
Look, you're right.
But the church, the separation, I'm with you on that.
I am too, but on basically everything. When it comes to religious freedom and the issues of, you know, curtailing LGBTQ rights and not selling cakes to people who want to get married, and abortion. I mean, it's, you know, it's not just one issue, it's all issues. So if we're going to be separating church and state on one issue, it should be on all. Now, look, I am a non-practicing Catholic. When I go to church,
You don't have to practice. You're very good at it.
I mean, lightning could strike. But
lightning could strike.
I was raised by Sacred Heart nuns who taught us social awareness that compels to action. And the Catholic Church, and there's no boundaries, the Catholic Church has spoken very strongly on issues like immigration, on, you know, and they've asked for compassion.
In particular, can I say very quickly, the Black Church has always been very politically active. It is where people go to get registered for voting. It historically was very involved in the civil rights movement, so there hasn't been this sort of separation of church and state.
But let me just I think it's an appropriate one last thought. If the church is going to interfere with politics, they have to pay taxes. I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
We'll be right back.
That's a good point.
How does outgoing Republican Congresswoman Mia Love feel about the president saying she lost because she didn't feel the Trump effect?
Mia Love gave me no love, and she lost.
She's talking back at the table next.
Gift rights.
Mia Love gave me no love, and she lost. Too bad. Sorry about that, Mia.
Well, that was President Trump's view on why the first black female Republican congresswoman in history lost one of the midterm election's biggest nail-biters. Her rival beat her by less than 1% of the votes in my home state of Utah. Please welcome outgoing Congresswoman Mia Love. You've been outspoken about President Trump before the 2016 election. You actually called on him to resign. When you heard him taunting you before your race was even over, by the way, what was going through your mind?
Well, I was surprised because, you know, I thought we had a good working relationship. I didn't think that, you know, I was supposed to just completely walk in lockstep. That wasn't my job. My job was to represent the people that sent me there to represent them. And so I found it really interesting, but I thought that comment really reflected a lot of the issues that I said when it comes to reaching out to minority communities, is that they need to feel like it's more than just transactional. They need to feel like there's a relationship there. And And I kind of felt like when he thought the race was over, even though it wasn't, we were still 2 weeks into counting, or going into counting, that it was just, he thought he didn't need me anymore, so he kind of said, well, I don't need her, so we'll just go ahead and throw her under
but he
the
said,
bus.
Mia Love lost because she didn't give me any love. It's always about
I don't
him.
know what that means.
It's always him.
But in your concession speech, you sort of mentioned, you know, what is this about? What did you think it was about? Did you think it was about race?
Well, it wasn't. I don't think it was about race. I think it was about him getting credit for the release of Joshua Holt. Joshua Holt was a young man in my district that was in Venezuela, in a Venezuelan prison. And I feel, as the President of the United States and as a representative, we should do everything we can to make sure every American knows that we're not going to abandon them. So I was doing my job, not just as a representative, but as a parent. I was doing what I thought I wanted my representative to do if that were my son. And I feel as if that was his job also. So I said thank you. I mean,
yeah.
I don't get
Not
it.
enough.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been a fan of yours for a really long time. I was really disappointed that you lost. You said in your concession speech that you're unleashed, untethered, and unshackled, and you can say exactly what's on your mind. You know, I think there's an impression sometimes that because Trump is president, that conservatives like us, our conservative beliefs just have evaporated because he's president. How do you, because I know I can't go anywhere without getting asked, how are you still a Republican? How are you still a Republican?
Right.
Where is your pathway going forward now?
Let me tell you, this is about not following a person to define yourself as a Republican or as a Democrat. I'm defined by my principles, and I'm defined by the platform. And I think that that's what we need to look away from, because there are communities that I really care about. I believe that the policies, the conservative policies work. They work for black communities. They lift people, give people as many opportunities as possible.
How?
They don't
How
keep
do they
people
do that?
trapped.
How do they do that?
I think that when you go out and you're doing everything you can to make sure that people have jobs, that they have work, that we're keeping families together.
The Democrats don't do that?
I don't believe that the policies are the same. I do not believe that
How
the policies work. I believe, well, let's look at the welfare policies.
Leg up, gives
right?
people a leg
up. But it also disincentivizes
There are many
people.
more white people on welfare than black people.
Hang
You
on
do
a
know
second.
that.
Hang on 1 second. Hang on 1 second. If imagine you're a single mom and you're trying to get that manager position, you lose everything. Every single help that you have. There is no bridge. We're incentivizing bad behavior and punishing good behavior. So I think what we need to do
you lose
is
your welfare status?
you lose all of it. So you're disincentivized from getting a bigger job, getting a better job.
That's not an
not
African
okay.
American issue, though.
I would say, but there are a lot of people that are in the minority communities that are feeling that. I mean, I spoke to a woman
So I
that
guess,
was
are you for unemployment insurance? Because that saved my life as a single mother.
Well, I am for making sure that we do everything we can to give people a leg up, to let them go out and get as much work as possible, allow moms to get an education.
What about health care for everyone?
I think that health care, we need to give as much access to health care as possible. The problem that we have is we're trying to push health care and paying, not realizing that we're spending so much money on health care, thereby making it unaffordable for a lot of people to get health care. We have got to make sure we hold pharmaceutical companies accountable. We've got to bring down the cost of health care so we can give as much people access
the same thing you
to
are.
health
Bernie
care as
Sanders says
possible.
that. Beto O'Rourke says
But
that.
he's wanting the government to pay for all of it. And where do you get the money to pay for all of that?
Maybe
we
take
have
some of the money
so
from
much
the
money.
wall.
Well,
let me
okay, now we're getting into a completely, wait a minute.
Let me ask you this, though.
But that we're getting into a completely different issue.
Let me ask you this.
It is how you view the role of government. You and I view it in an entirely different way than the rest of the table.
I'm a mayor. I have realized that the best solutions are found at the most local level. When you're making decisions from whether it's the White House or even in Washington, let people have a voice. And so you have got to, limited government to me doesn't mean you cut everything. Limited government means that everyth's applied at the appropriate level.
Let me ask you this.
And I could do more as a mayor, trying to take care, if I had all of the resources as a mayor as opposed to making decisions.
Let me ask you this.
In Washington.
You said during your concession speech, and I don't have it verbatim, but that Republicans must embrace minorities in order to sort of increase the diversity of the Republican Party. And you mentioned that Republicans fail to take minorities into their hearts and their homes. And it almost seemed like a revelation to you. And I just ask you, because as a black Republican, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me when you have a Republican Party that's, you know, supporting a president who was a birther, Central Park 5, DOJ settlement, not letting black people run. You know, you're Haitian American. He called Haiti.
I wish I called him out for that.
Why were you so surprised by that?
Well, let me just, we're not going to let Democrats off the hook, because I was actually targeted by Democrats. They targeted me because, I need to say this, they targeted me because I am a black female Republican, and they replaced me with a middle-aged white male in the state of Utah.
Well, the voters
so there was a whole lot of money in an R+13 district that went to take me out. Look at Carlos Curbelo. They tried to get rid of every single diversity that they possibly could, and to me, diversity on the left side is good for them if you think the same way they do.
I don't agree with that. I don't think, you know, Carlos got replaced by a woman, first Ecuadorian, that's going to serve. Look, I think it's politics. I think it's about the numbers. They wanted a majority, and so if it means taking out the only black Republicans, they did. If it means taking out Curbelo, they did. I don't think to them it was targeting a, you know, black woman. But, you know, one thing you said, which to me was very interesting, you said that when Trump said, "She gave me no love," you didn't think it was about race. And actually, and something you just alluded to, for me, the issues where you most clashed with him were precisely about race. You did stand up to him and clash with him when he called Haiti an African.
You're racist.
You did slam him about ending Haitian temporary protective status, which I don't think you get enough credit for.
Okay, let's answer.
But those were race-based issues that you were clashing with him on.
To me, those are American issues. It was a right or wrong issue. It is about America, democracy at its best. And what I did was I stood up for what I believe was right and what I believe our district thought was the right thing to do. And I'll continue to voice those opinions.
Do you think he's a racist, Mia?
I'm not going to get into his head and decide
well, look at his track record.
But here's
what he is. I'm not going to.
Here's the problem, and I do want to say this because I think it's important to have different views at this table. That is what the view is. And if you are a Republican today, I don't think every question about you should be about Trump, because Trump does not speak for every single Republican, and it's difficult today being a part of the conservative party or Republican party.
He's the one who brought it up. Who brought it up?
It's hard not to speak about Trump when he danced on her political grave, which is, you know, really offensive and disgusting for a Republican president to do about a Republican woman.
And you spoke out well about that.
Look, I am who I am. I am a Republican. I'm a conservative, but I'm not defined by the White House. I'm defined by a set of principles, and those principles lift everyone from the lowest common denominator up. I am about America. I'm a mother first and a wife, and those are the principles I'm going to live by.
Maybe when he's out of office, you can run again.
We run again.
All right. Our thanks to Congresswoman Mia Love. Thank you so much for being with us. You had the full view experience. I will tell you that. I will be right back. Recovery was long, and there were, I imagine, a lot of dark days. What was the low point for you in all this?
You know, the lowest point, and I had a lot of setbacks, and, you know, infections would set in, and I'd go back to surgery. I had 9 surgeries, and Dr. Sava and the whole team, I talk about them in the book and how the wonderful things that they did to keep me alive. But I had a lot of nerve damage in my left leg, and when one of my doctors, Dr. Asaf, came to me and said, you know, they did a lot of nerve tests, and they said, you know, we don't think the nerves in your foot are going to come back on the left foot. So I may never be able to run again. I love playing sports. But you know what? I knew at the time, okay, I've got my life. I've got my family. The things that I love, I can still do. And if I can't run again, I'll come up with other hobbies. But, you know, it helps you focus on what's important in life. And so, sure, we have setbacks. I had setbacks. I talk about that in the book. But I also talk about the things that gave me strength, the people who gave me strength. Prayers from strangers, friends, from, you know, Bono calling, Prime Minister Netanyahu from Israel calling me from the hospital to talk about his brother who died in the raid in Entebbe and talking about that experience. I mean, just wonderful people that lift you up. And, you know, there was one act of evil but there were so many acts of kindness and miracles and heroes. And we talk about that in the book, too. So anybody who's got something they're dealing with that's tough in their life, you can get through it. And rely on the people that are there. You know, not just your friends that come, but it's amazing how strangers just pop up along the way, too, and give you strength.
So I can't imagine
You know, so your views different on gun control or even on other issues. And, you know, I've got deep-rooted conservative beliefs, but they're rooted in what the fundamental foundation of this country is based on. I mean, the Constitution was written initially, they didn't have a protection for guns because our founders just thought it was an assumed right. Later, they added it in the Bill of Rights as the Second Amendment, but they felt very strongly every American has the right to defend themselves. And if you look, there are bad people out there, you know, whether they use guns or knives or bombs. There are a lot of laws on the books. You know, if somebody goes and uses a gun to commit a crime, they've broken a series of laws to get there. And so let's enforce the laws better. And look, we've had a lot of mental health problems. And there's usually a common thread in a lot of these shooters that they're mental health issues. We weren't closing a lot of those loopholes. We just passed some new laws, and they were very bipartisan, so they didn't get a lot of attention. But laws that help close a lot of those loopholes and coordinate a lot of the mental health problems in this country so that if somebody does have serious mental illness, they're going to be taken care of in a better way. And obviously the laws that protect them along the way, too.
Right. So I have a kind of a silly question that has to go with this also. So we talk about the founding fathers from time to time because we have all these discussions about guns and gun laws, and I'm a gun owner. What do you think they were talking about? What kind of gun? Because it says if you're part of the militia, you have every right to you know, carry on. So what kind of guns do you think they were talking about? Do you think they were ever considering?
They had muskets back then, and that might have been considered a, you know, a powerful weapon. Right. You know, today we laugh about some of that. But I mean, look, our founding fathers, what they really talked about was that people had a right to defend themselves. And they felt very strongly. It wasn't
just say militia.
But it wasn't just in the Supreme Court, by the way, answered this question a few years ago. There was a question of whether or not the militia only meant you have to be in the military to be able to own a gun, or can you own it individually? And it was a 5-4 decision, which was concerning. I mean, it should have been a 9-0 decision. But the Supreme Court said very clearly, you can own a gun, not just as a member of the military, but also individually to protect yourself. And so that is what the true meaning of the Second Amendment is. And again, go back and read what our founders talked about before they wrote the Constitution. This was a fundamental belief.
Okay. You know, we may never agree on
it. But it's important that, you know, we have this debate. Yes. And, you know, you could talk about the muskets and what they did. They didn't have, you know, airplanes and things that you can do to deliver bombs that allow us to, you know, deliver weapons in different ways.
Congressman Scalise, you had 9 surgeries, and then you returned and had a standing ovation. And I wanted to know what that was like, finally coming back at the State of the Union to this kind of applause. I was so happy to see you up and walking and speaking and just, you know, back doing what you do best. What was that moment like?
It was one of the most special moments of my life. I mean, obviously, you know, my wedding to Jennifer, the birth of my kids, Madison and Harrison, but to be able to come back. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to come back to work. A lot of people were wondering about that. And so to be able to get back into the House chamber and see my friends, Republican and Democrat, people I hadn't seen in months, some people had come to visit me, and to see that warm reception, it meant so much to be able to do that again when it was a question whether or not I was going to be able to. And so, you know, that kind of reaction shows you. And I mean, Cedric Richmond, my colleague from New Orleans, who's probably as liberal as you can be. I'm a conservative Republican. He was sitting right behind me. He was the first person to come to the hospital right after the shooting. In his the Democrats had their practice going on that morning, too, and he showed up in his uniform.
Yeah.
So just, you know, again, it shows you there are real friendships you can form. Republican and Democrat, treat people with respect.
We're happy you're here.
Congressman Scalise, it's such an honor to have you. Thank
great
you
to be
so
here.
much.
Thank
It's
you.
really a privilege. I'm so glad you're doing well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Members of the audience are getting a copy of his book, Back in the Game. We'll be right back.
The savings are still gorgeous at ViewYourDeal.com. We partnered with vendors for at least half off the hottest holiday beauty products. Paracone MD, Beauty Lighting by Glamcore, Primal Elements shampoo and conditioner bars, Michael Todd beauty devices, Glove Treat warm paraffin treatments, Root Cover Up by True Hair, and Tan Luxe self tanners. Get to ViewYourDeal.com now.
We just clapped for like 3 minutes.
We just had an epiphany here. We had just this amazing 1.25 minute applause thing.
Yeah.
We didn't know why. We didn't know why people were clapping. Also, I'm not wearing my sweater because in the break I gave it to Congressman Scalise. He said he liked it. You know.
He said he was going to wear it to the Capitol.
Yeah, and you know what? He said he liked it. And people who like me, even if I don't agree with them with stuff, I could like them too.
Of course.
You know, and that's important. That's important for all of us.
We had a great conversation backstage. Because his family is Sicilian and mine is Calabrese.
Right.
We bonded at the Italian level.
Yes. They were talking all about the food.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. So don't forget that. You know, even in the heat of whatever arguments you're having with people, don't forget that it's okay to disagree. That was the fundamental right of being an American. You know.
And share your clothes.
And share your clothes with people who like it. Now here's something that well, it's a different kind of groove. It's a heads up for new parents out there. A recent poll found that you will fight with your kids about 5 times a week before they turn 18. I don't know why this is a shock to people, but apparently it is. I mean, and I don't know what they mean by fight. Does that mean disagreement? Does that mean, oh my God, you need to put on more clothes than you have on right now? Is that what they mean?
What about when you say, I hate you? I mean, I love that one when kids go, I hate you.
Oh, you know, I'm bad. I say, I hate you too. My God. And then they look and it's like, what? It's like, well, didn't you just say
I was
that?
surprised at those numbers because I don't remember fighting with my parents, and my children, I wasn't allowed to, but and my children aren't either, but they certainly are allowed to give me their point of view, you know, they just and have discussions, but I don't understand, you know, make your case to me. Don't, you know, I hate you or anything like that. No disrespect.
My grandson will negotiate. I like a negotiating
Yeah, I
kid.
don't
like
mind that.
Like if I do that, can I go to bed later, you know, or can you buy me this if I do that?
Yeah, make your case.
There's a lot of that going
but
on.
not the fighting. I find that disrespectful, actually.
We weren't allowed to either. We had a timeout here, but I did it anyway.
Tell them what you told us.
I'm one of 7 kids, so, you know, you're going to get some kids that fight back. And, you know, now I have a great relationship with them, but I was a terrible, terrible child. I ran away from home so many times. I told you guys in the morning meeting, there was one time. Okay, quickly, I packed my suitcase, a pair of underwear, and a hat, because apparently I needed that. Ran down our front. We had a hill. I was probably 8, and I saw this boy who was 2 years ahead of me, who I had the biggest crush on. I was so embarrassed because I had my suitcase. Fell down, dropped the suitcase, out rolls my underwear. I go back into the house bawling. I run up to my bed, and the boy brings it up to the front door, rings it, and my mom answers it. He said, I think Abby left behind something.
See?
To this day, I've seen him.
That's what you get for fighting with your parents.
So my mom's like, it's karma. That's what you deserve.
Do you see him now? What does he say?
Actually, he asked me out on a date years later, and it didn't work out. But
he liked you.
See, there was no discussion in my house. My mother said, that's what I said, and that's what she said. That was it. But, you know, negotiate on if you can. We'll be right back.
This week, The View is given the gift of Red Hot Topics.
Being here with you girls is up for the gift.
Plus, Howie Mandel, Kerry Washington, and Ruben and Clay light things up with holiday cheer. This week on The View.
It is Cancer Screen Week, so right now we are finding out how early detection can mean the difference between life and death. With help from our sponsor, Genentech, and the Chief Cancer Control Officer for the American Cancer Society, Dr. Richard Wender. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Man, does this affect every single person in this room and everyone that's watching right now? I just had a big chunk taken out of my chest, a mole that was leading to melanoma. Tell us about Screen Week and what everyone needs to know about it.
Well, last year, Genentech, the American Cancer Society, Stand Up to Cancer, and Rally Health came together for a very critical reason. So many people think there's nothing they can do to reduce their risk of dying of cancer, and it's not true. Every one of us can reduce the risk of dying of lung cancer, colorectal cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, or prostate cancer by following the American Cancer Society guideline and getting tested or screened, regardless of family history, regardless of how you're feeling.
You know, doctor, we're going to focus on screening and prevention for 3 types of cancer today, and those types are lung, breast, and cervical. Can we start with lung? What do we need to know?
Well, the first thing that people need to understand is that lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer-related death in both men and women. It kills more women than breast cancer does, and so many people don't realize that. Although smoking is far and away the biggest risk, 30,000 people every year get lung cancer who never smoked. Yeah. But now, for the first time, just a few years ago, we can screen people who have a history of smoking, who are at high risk, for lung cancer, and we can reduce the chances they'll die of this disease by about 20%. And it's being underutilized. Not enough current and ex-smokers, it's not just for current smokers, are getting screened, so this is the time to take action.
My mom's sister passed away of lung cancer in her mid-30s.
Wow.
When she found out, she lived for 3 weeks. What you're saying is so real. Yeah. I also have breast cancer. I have every type of cancer in my family, as many people do, but breast cancer is a big one, and it can affect everybody.
It does. And you know, it's interesting you mentioned family history, because that really is the first thing that all of us have to do. We have to know our family history. So many people do not. They've not asked around to really figure out what people have. So if you have a family history of breast cancer at an early age, you might need to start earlier than 40. But for everybody else, at age 40, that's when that discussion has to begin. Everybody should have the chance and may opt to start screening with mammography, and that's the key, is mammograms every year starting at 40. But by 45, if you have not started, every woman needs to begin with an annual
whether it's in your family or not.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes, and can you please tell us about prevention for cervical cancer?
Well, I think every woman knows, because they've been living with the pap smear for a lot of years, that every woman should be screened regularly with the pap smear. And we've done an amazing job. Cervix cancer used to be #1 cause of cancer death in women, and now it's way down the list. Every 3 years till 30, and then with the new way we screen, it's every 5 years, and every woman can do that. That's not that tough to do. Here's the amazing news. With the combination of HPV vaccination and regular screening, we can, and I believe we will, make cervix cancer the first cancer eliminated in the United States.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Really incredible.
You did say something to me quickly before we go backstage. You said don't get your whole body screened. Do it individually.
Absolutely. You know, we're hearing more about this. If people say, oh, I'm just going to look for everything, I'm going to get a total body screen. It's not a good idea. #1, we have no evidence it's actually going to reduce your risk of dying of these various cancers, and that's critical to make a screening recommendation. #2, we find lots of things that lead to lots of other tests which actually don't work. And that's why we recommend that everybody go to cancerscreenweek.org and check out what we're doing, and talk to your personal physician about the screening right for you.
Doctor, thank you so much. This is so important.
Yeah.
All right.
Really
our thanks to Dr. Wender, and our sponsor, of course, Genentech. Please consult your doctor before making any medical decisions, and we will be right back.
Hey, so we're back. I tell you, I am trying to get my ears to pop, because I can't.
No,
you know how much I've been swallowing?
Did you hold your nose?
Yes, hold my nose. Blew, swallowed, held my nose like this and drank. I mean, it's crazy.
You've been stuffy for weeks.
For weeks.
I have a trick for you. I'll tell you.
We love you. Have a great day. Take a little time to enjoy the view. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming.